So now let's take a look at some specific database types. So if we go /table, we can see our two types of table. We do an inline one on this page. For the sake of cleanliness, I'm going to do it as a full page. So we'll click on full page. So first we'll want to give it a title up here. So we'll call it table example. And you'll see your database inline here. It has 3 blank rows to start you out. Various things across the top with views, properties, filters, sorts. We're going to talk about all that in a future lesson. For now, we're just going to look at how this works and how to add more columns and what those columns look like. So the name column is always there. You can change the name of the name. You can call it title. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It's always going to be a text field, though. This has to be text. It's just how it is. It's kind of frustrating at times, but works well enough. It also often will default you with another one. This one, it put in tags. You can change this to anything you want. You can delete it if you want. So if we hover over this, you could delete this column completely if you want. We'll do that. So now we just have a single column. Doesn't do a lot for us. The one thing it still does, even if you just did this, is inside of each row, again, is a full field that you can add text to, like a page, add another database, add whatever you want to it inside of there. So if you have a bunch of data to keep up with, that alone could be kind of helpful. But typically, you're going to want more columns in there to make it more of a proper database. So we'll click on plus and see what kind of columns we can add. It's going to default to text. We have all these options in here. So number is a number. We'll leave that alone. You can figure out what a number is. Select, though, is kind of interesting. It's a select box to let you choose from options. So if we do that, nothing shows up. If we go in here, it's going to say choose an option or create one. So we'll say, okay, option 1. And we're going to create option 1. And then if we wanted, on the next one now, we could say, we could choose option 1 or type a new one, say option 2. Create option 2, and down here we have option 3. Create option 3. And so now in any of these, and if we do another row, we can still go, and now we could choose from option 1, 2, or 3. And here you can drag to rearrange if you want to put them in order. If we put them in order here by default, but if you need to rearrange them, you can also change the color off to the side here. So all of option 2 now will be orange wherever you use it. You see it changed up there. So that can be kind of useful for various things there. Related to that, that was a select box where if you choose 1, it changes it. So if I were to click on option 1 here and choose 2, it's going to replace 2 with 1. You can only have 1 chosen at a time. In other cases, though, we could have a multi-select. And this is very similar, but you can choose multiple. So now if I go in here and click option 1, now this is option 2 and option 1. And inside of here, there's a little X to get rid of it, so you can choose what you want. So this is a case where, like with tags, I think this was originally called tags, is that kind of setup where you could have tags and say, I'm going to tag this with option 1 and option 3, do what you want to do there. Another type in here is a date, which is just a date picker. And again, it's going to name it kind of default, so we'll just call it date. We can click on that and choose a date. You can do a few things in here. You can choose today's date, and that's it. Or choose a date and include an end date and say, okay, we want it to be 2 dates in here. So it's going to be January 4th through January 10. You include the time if you want, and you can format it and change the time zone. And also set up reminders for you. I don't do a lot of that in here. I have other methods around that, but you can set up reminders to notify you in the reminders, a day before, on the day, whatever you want to do there. So some pretty neat stuff you can do with dates, and we'll get more into that in a little bit. Also in here, you can add a person. So this is where you can reference a person on your team if you have multiple people in here. Generally, what I do is I just do a multi-select or reference another database. We'll talk about that later, unless I have a bunch of people in here. So a few cases I use person for is assigning tasks on my team. We have a task system set up, and I can say this one goes to Simon, this one goes to Chet, whatever you want to do there. But generally, it's going to be just you or just a few people using it. You may want to talk about other people, in which case just a multi-select is the way to go. So you would change this, instead of being tagged, to be person that you're referencing. And then in here, you could just change these to be Betty and Steve, whatever you want to do there for the name. There's Chet again, and see what's assigned to what's going on there. But the person one can be useful at times for certain things. Media and files just gives you a way to upload a PDF or an image to that entry in the database. A checkbox is just a simple checkbox, and this is where I think to-dos can work better, is you can have a checkbox like that, do your to-do list, and I'll show you why this makes more sense than the traditional to-do system they have later, which may or may not work best for you, but I'll show you our thoughts on that. You can also have a URL, which looks for a specific URL and lets you link off to that. You can see the little up arrow they have. Whoops, that's lost there. The link off. Email, keep it formatted, and then phone, keep it formatted there. And then other things down here, the formulas, relations, and roll-ups we'll talk about later. And then these, you can't adjust the content of. It'll show you when something was created or edited. And so I like this one, like last edited, I often will show in some of our databases and sort by that. We'll talk about sorts later. So that way, if people go in and touch items, I'll have them float to the top and sort by the most recently edited so we can see what people have been playing with in their database. But that's a little bit about a table there and how that can kind of work. Where this gets really powerful is when you can connect it to other databases and to add other views. And again, we'll talk about views in a few lessons. But first, we're going to go through some of the other types of databases so you can get a feel for what everything has to offer.